Title sort of indicates I am trying something new as a support system for my tomatoes and peppers in the hoop house. Something that's new to me. I'm sure most of you have seen it. Some of you probably are using it. I think the last person that I saw demonstrate it was Chuck Fenster on Fenster's Greenhouse channel. This is 40-pound test braided fishing line. And for the tomatoes, I used 2 strands. So I guess that, in theory, that should give me 80 pounds of support. And I don't think I'll ever have an 80-pound tomato vine. But these unique little things, you secure the top of the line to the something at the top of the hoop house. I'll show you what I did, or the top of your greenhouse. What I did earlier, I'll show you that in a bit. But the line goes through like that, and that locks very solidly. There's no way it's going to slip. This goes around the tomato vine or around the branch or whatever main stalk on the pepper plant. I'm using it on both. And as it grows taller, you just keep adding more of the clamps for support. I've tried many things over the years, all the way from using tomato cages, which I've never found successful, and then bamboo canes, and then those curly-Q metal things. I've used many different things for support system for tomatoes in particular, and I've never had one yet that I was really pleased with. It all works just fine until you have a heavy set of tomatoes and it comes crashing down at some point during the summer. There's 100 of these in the bag, and I couldn't tell you exactly what I paid for them, but not very much money, and I got them on Amazon. So if anybody's interested in this and hasn't done it before and is looking for the source, they were available on Amazon. I'm thinking even the lower ones, which I've got on now on my tomato plants because they're not very big, didn't even really need supports at this point, but I wanted to get this installed. I'm thinking the lower ones could be removed later on and used higher up on the plant. But if not, I would just buy another bag of the things. There's 100 in the bag, and I don't want to quote a price because I won't be accurate, but it was not a lot of money. So I'll take you in the hoop house and show you what they look like. Well, I think you can see some of the tomato plants there. Like I said, they're not very big yet, and well, those ones that I'm showing you right there now could definitely use the support. Some of the smaller ones didn't really need it yet, but I think it's going to be a good system. And all of those containers that you see in the background there, the trays of pots, those are things that are yet to be transplanted out into the garden. My squash are starting to come up. I can zoom in on there for you. And the corn is doing very well. And the far wall over there, that is my alpine strawberries. A lot of blossoms on them. See one little one that's sort of wilting there. It's because I just transplanted that in there this morning. I lost one plant over the winter. And that wasn't, due to winter conditions or anything. It was the moles or the voles or whatever it is that move in here in the wintertime. They devoured it, roots and all. And what I didn't know when I originally bought alpines, I wanted to try them, they don't produce runners. I didn't know that. I think it was Elise, her channel, that told me that after I bought them. And that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned in a greenhouse. I had regular strawberries in here before, and you're constantly chasing runners that are trying to root themselves where you don't want them. But they do sort of divide. Like each one of those clumps now could be divided into 2 or 3 plants, and that's what I did to get that one extra plant to fill in that blank space there. And if you're seeing here some smart pots, they're not staying. They're for a friend. I give some plants to every year. Can't take them to her until the seasonal car ferry starts to run here, because I'm not allowed to take a plant through the United States. Evidently it would completely destroy their economy. And over here are the peppers, and I've done the same thing with the peppers. I'm using the same support system, and it seems to be working quite well. Peppers don't seem to need support until all of a sudden when they're heavy with peppers growing, and then you're trying to prop them up with canes and whatever. So I think that's going to work out quite well. And if I can show you what I did to, maybe you can see part of it there, but we'll have a look here. All I did was take some canes, bamboo canes, and wire them to the hoops at the top of the hoop house, and then tied the fishing line from the bamboo canes and brought it down to the plants. I don't know how high that would be there. It's in a raised bed, but they're probably still over 5 feet, getting close to 6 feet of growth there. If my tomato plants get that high, I'll be very surprised. But I'm thinking this is going to be a good system. I think I have one variety that's a determinate that really, won't get that tall. But once again, I find you need to support all of these things, whether they're going to grow that tall or not, because they get top heavy when they start developing their fruit. This is the Asian pear that I showed in my last video. I think it was the very next day after I did that video that it started opening up, and now it's in full bloom. So once again, I should get a decent set of the 5 different kinds of Asian pears that are on the thing. Maybe they'll be a bit larger this year. It looks like it's going to be an excellent year for the black currants, which is good. I gave currants away last year because I didn't need to make any more black currant jam, but I think I have one bottle that hasn't been opened, so this will be a year for making more of my black currant jam. The bees have been into this for a week, and right now I can see several. Not only bees, but yellow-jacket hornets pollinate this for some reason. I don't care who does it, as long as they get pollinated, I guess. This is that large white rose bush that I'm so proud of, if you know from watching my previous videos in years past, because I grew it from seed. It grows into sort of a nice big mound or a fountain here. It's, heavens, I don't know, 8 feet tall at least, maybe closer to 10 feet tall, and at least 10 to 12 feet wide. You want a big area for the thing. But it produces thousands of blossoms, and each one of those blossoms produces a tiny little rose hip, and the birds love it. They clean it during the wintertime. There's not a rose hip left come spring. So I want to show you what I have found that's been happening with the seeds that the birds have been dropping. This is underneath my old pumpkin sweet heritage apple tree, a big old tree that's been growing here for many years. Not a lot of greenery under the tree because the hens love to come up here and scratch every night. But I have found at least 6, I think, so far, so I'm sure there's probably more of those rose plant seedlings up here. And we're probably 100, 150 meters from the rose bush, which of course doesn't make any difference, and there's a lot of trees in between. Let's see if I can show you where we are here, underneath of this big old tree. Evidently, once the birds have filled up on the rose hips, they come and roost and spend the night in this old apple tree and leave their seeds on the ground in the morning. So it's going to take a few more years. I would think the one that I just showed you is probably 2 to 3 years old. They're slow getting started, but like most things, the bigger they get, the faster they grow. So one of these days I'll be having to prune it back to get out the path here. And this is up looking at my plum trees, the 2 pollinators. And if you can see just a bit off to the far left here, the one that doesn't have hardly any blossoms this year is the one that will bear fruit. That's the purple plum there. It does have blooms, and I think probably enough that I'll get what I want. I want to make some plum jam. Last year was an exceptional year for it. Just loaded in blossoms, and then later on loaded in fruit. And I gave away bags and bags of plums, but these things tend to be cyclical. One year they produce a lot, and then the next year not so much. But it's had a lot of blossoms. Some of them have fallen already, and there's still some to open, so I think it will still set an adequate amount of fruit. Well, I think that is it Not as long a video as the last one, but thank you very much for watching.